Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we've initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of this session is IBM Bluemix, platform to help developers to innovate. Our guest speaker today is Rajesh K. Jaipal. He is a cloud solution architect at IBM. Rajesh is working closely with IBM partners on cloud enablements. He's been with IBM for past 15 years, and his work experience involves product development in the areas of OS internals, JVM internals, cloud OS, performance engineering, and product migrations. He started his career with Ministry of Defense Lab, Aeronautical Development Agency, as research fellow before joining IBM for about 3 years. He has co-authored various IBM Red Books in the areas of performance and high availability. He has a couple of patents to his credit. He has few technical papers presented, including IE paper on energy efficient computation. We expect this webinar to last for about an hour with 45 minutes of presentation and the remainder 15 minutes for Q&A round. So if you have any questions, please submit them using questions tab in your GoToMeeting control panel. So without further delay, I introduce to you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Deepika, and good afternoon, participants. I'm quite excited to kind of present about IBM Bluemix today. And if you could see the title, it goes like this: platform to implement your novel thoughts, right? And I'm sure you'll be equally excited to understand more about IBM Bluemix. What is IBM Bluemix, what it offers, especially from for a developer community, right? And how easy and convenient it's going to be for the developer to kind of implement their novel thoughts using Bluemix. So IBM Bluemix, it's basically a platform as a service model. If you see the traditional approach of implementing a solution, we always start with an infrastructure, right? And then we kind of ensure that all the required runtimes are all configured. Then we tend to move our binaries, the executable, right, the compiled code onto that particular environment, and then kind of do all sort of configurations required for our applications to run, and then kind of finally we make the application up and running, right? So this is more of a traditional approach, right? So given the evolution that happens in the technology, right, the way the technology has evolved, that particular approach is something is going to kind of a time-consuming one, where a developer, right, whose intention is kind of solely implementing his ideas or thoughts, right, he's going to wait for, right, he's going to kind of, rather than wait, I would say waste some of his time kind of in getting the required infrastructure and runtime to make his application up and running. Right, so kind of to overcome this particular problem, right, it then evolved to have a environment, right, something called infrastructure as a service. So companies like Amazon, right, IBM, and Microsoft, right, they all came out with the solutions where infrastructure has been offered. What that means is the core infrastructure, like the required memory, the storage, right, probably to some extent the operating system itself kind of is being provisioned. On top of that, the developers are kind of forced to do their other configurations required to deploy and run their applications. So on that category, IBM offers the infrastructure as a service through soft layer, right? So someone who is kind of more inclined towards hosting their solution on infrastructure, right, then software is the place where they can kind of the complete infrastructure required for their application, and then go ahead in kind of deploying, configuring the rest of all the complex environments that is required to support your application. But the fact is basically the evolution happened not only from the technology, but also from the developer community itself, right? The developers tend to kind of think fast, right, and kind of like want to see like the ideas or the solutions kind of getting implemented quickly, right? And also they look for certain flexibilities in terms of kind of like the surround tools, right, that may be required to support their application. So during our days, we tend to kind of wait to get a compiler installed on the system, right, and then kind of like move our code, compile it, and run it. And then if I want to debug something, then again we need to look for another tool to debug the applications. But now the situation has changed, right, where people tend to look for the tools, the services, the runtimes, right? That is something which should be available surrounding them, right? And they want to kind of have a seamless and the smooth integration of their the solutions. So from that aspect, if you see, right, people look for deployment which should happen in seconds, right? And people look for something like a continuous integration. So basically, like you develop the code, right? You test it and then kind of run it. Any changes happens, just do the change that is required in your solution, and automatically kind of make the solutions up and running. And then kind of like using the other services, third-party services, right? The solutions that have been developed these days is not completely kind of developed from the scratch. We tend to use the third-party services. So we look for the APIs, right? Is there an API available to kind of to implement certain functionality, right? So integrating the APIs. So the mindset of a developer, right, is kind of goes in that direction. So it's to kind of meet the expectation, right, of this particular the developer community, right? Like Bluemix comes into the picture in terms of kind of meeting most of the expectations of this expectation from the developers, right? And if you see this slide, what Bluemix offers here is the complete infrastructure as well as the runtime, right? Along with the runtime, we also offer the various other tools and services. So then now the focus, especially from the developer perspective, is you focus on your code, right, and focus on the data that you will be generating, right, from your application or from your solution. Okay, so Bluemix is basically a platform as a service, which provides various sets of runtimes, various sets of services, the tools that are required to kind of implement your novel thoughts. So I'd like to kind of take you through today what Bluemix offers, right? As a developer, what would be your next step? How you can kind of explore the breadth of services that is offered by Bluemix. The interesting question that comes is, right, so is it that, okay, my application is going to kind of, like completely move to Bluemix so that, my existing infrastructure and the other deployments that I have currently, whether it is on-premise or it could be some other cloud infrastructure-based deployment? To answer that, this slide shows Bluemix not only support you to kind of implement your solution and kind of run completely on Bluemix, but we also provide the flexibility in terms of connecting to your other on-premise critical, probably confidential services or databases running, right, which is well secured on your environment. Okay, so Bluemix has the flexibility of kind of integrating your other services or your other secure data and kind of consume the data like wherever it has to be, and then kind of have the application running on cloud. So what is Bluemix? It's a platform as a service. So how different this is, especially any product from IBM, right? Traditionally, it comes with rich technologies. And interestingly, Bluemix, if you see, it is based on the open source community architecture, Cloud Foundry. So what that means is Bluemix not only offers the key niche technology from IBM, but Bluemix also has the capability of integrating or accommodating the open community supported services. So Bluemix is an open standard cloud-based platform for building your applications, managing your applications, and running your applications. So as I mentioned, right, it is a collection of runtime services and tools. You have the flexibility of reaching out to open community supported services. You have the wealth of APIs. You have the capability or the capacity to connect your on-premise services or data. And also it provides the complete continuous integration capability, the DevOps. And most important thing is the security. And Bluemix is hosted on our own infrastructure as a service soft layer, and our data centers are tier 4 certified, tier 4 level certified data centers, which means starting from the access to the data center to the level of security around the underlying system, probably the operating systems at the database level, and the secure connection from your development environment till you kind of move your application to Bluemix. It's all well secured. So IBM has put in all their efforts to ensure that the application that has been hosted on Bluemix is well secured, and we also kind of certified for various compliance and regulatory requirements from various institutions, for example, the financial institutions. So that is the kind of a brief background about Bluemix. That looks very interesting and promising, right? I just want to take you through how it works, right? This particular slide shows you the stack. As I mentioned, software infrastructure on which the Bluemix is hosted, and Cloud Foundry is open community architecture, which defines how your application will be kind of moved into Bluemix and how it will be made up and running. So that is the open community supported architecture, and on top of that you will see the runtimes that we offer, and then on top of that your application, which runs within Bluemix, consuming the runtimes that we have offered, and on top of that you will see the various service layers, right? That is where, right, we have our own technologies, and also the technology from the open source community is kind of integrated in Bluemix. And interestingly, if you see, the top one is the marketplace. So which clearly shows that if you have a solution which you want to kind of export it as a service within Bluemix, so that it can be consumed by the other your partners or clients, right? So you have the option of kind of making your solution, right, available, running within Bluemix as a service. So this is a stack, something which you should keep in mind. In today's probably in another 30 minutes or so, we will quickly see the Cloud Foundry, couple of runtimes, and probably the applications, how it can be kind of pushed into Bluemix, and then we will see how the services can be integrated with your application, and also how we can consume the other services and APIs available within Bluemix. So just want to move on to a slide. Right. Just want to kind of take you through this particular piece where now we claim that run your apps in seconds. Right. Bluemix deployment is based on Linux container-based deployments. It's a lightweight deployment scenarios. So once you have your application created, for example, we can take a Java application, right? It can be, convert the Java application or bundle that application into a web archive, WAR file. And what is expected is you need to have a Java runtime, right? So the scenario here is you take your web archived file, right, and then kind of push it to Bluemix. And then what we internally do is we provide you the container, that the runtime container required for your application. This being a Java-based application, we will provide you the Java-based runtime. If it is a server-based application, we will give you an app server. So what happens is your application gets docked with our container, and once the docking is over, it's all about making your application up and running. So this process is fairly simple, lightweight, and hence we are able to kind of make the application up and running within a couple of minutes. So I would like to kind of take you through a quick demo. So the scenario is like this. You have a hello world, probably a server program. So as I mentioned, convert that into a WAR file, right? Once the application which is developed using your own IDE, right, the code is within your local environment, what is expected from Bluemix is this. You need to kind of install a Cloud Foundry plugin. So this is the only one installation you need to do, nothing else. So install the Cloud Foundry plugin. It is available as a plugin. If you are convenient with Eclipse-based IDE, you can install the plugin through Eclipse and push the code directly from there. Or if you are comfortable with the command line, then there is a command line binaries are available, right? Download the Cloud Foundry plugin and then kind of log into Bluemix. This is a high-level thing, okay? So just for you to visualize and picturize how Bluemix has to be approached, right? So one installation is required. Download the Cloud Foundry plugin and then kind of log into Bluemix. So just to mention, to log into Bluemix, you need to register with Bluemix, and our panelist and moderator will share you the details on how you can go about and register yourself with Bluemix. It's fairly simple. It takes a couple of minutes. Once you register, you get a user ID password. Using that, you log into the Bluemix, and then all you need to do is run this command, cf push, right? So I have given the example over there. Assume that I have a WAR file called welcometech.war file, right? And to identify my application, I'm giving a name hello TechG, okay, in the example which I have taken. So I'm giving cf push hello TechG -p, right? P indicates the path where my WAR file is available. Then I'm specifying what amount of memory is required for my application, right? Once you do that, right, within a couple of minutes, right, Bluemix will accept your WAR file, and as I mentioned, it will dock with the required containers. In this case, this being a servlet, we will give you an app server, and then once it is bundled, right, the application will be up and running. So if you're wondering, right, okay, where I can get the complete details about where to download the plugin, how to log in, right, we have created a Bluemix Hackers Guide, which is available in the link where I have given. It is pretty straightforward. You can search in Google as well, Bluemix space hackers space guide. You will get this link as a first hit. If you go through this link, there is a file attachment which has a complete details, right? So in this webinar, our intention is to kind of take you through as much as possible, right, to give you a high-level overview of in what way you can approach Bluemix, right? So now coming back to this demo, so have your WAR file. I'm switching back to a command line. I'm just waiting till it gets refreshed. I'm right. I think it is visible to you now. So if you see, in the interest of time, I have ran this probably 15-20 minutes back. So the same command, cf push techg135-p welcome tech.war. Okay. So what Bluemix does is it kind of creates a route to me, techg135.mybluemix.net, right? So any name you specify, right, that is kind of considered as a identification, your application identification. So that Bluemix kind of creates a route to kind of access your application. So techg135.mybluemix.net is going to be, right, my application URL, right, which I'll be using it to access it. And what Bluemix does is it kind of uploads my files, and then this being a simple Java servlet, right, the docking is not visible. Otherwise, you could see how Bluemix docks the app server, that bundling happens, right? In this case, it just our default implementation is we kind of by default assign an app server. You also have an option of specifying probably what other app server is required, that I will take you through the next demo. So in this case, a default app server is provided, which is nothing but IBM's lighter version of WebSphere called as Liberty. So if you are already kind of hosting your applications on WebSphere or Liberty, which is slightly a lighter version, like you can move your application in this way, have a WAR file created, right, and just push it, right? Usually it goes in one first attempt, right? In my case, you have seen some 6 to 7, 8 attempts it took to kind of make the application running, right? At the end, it will give a status like app started, and it is up and running, right? Now, if you access techg135.mybluemix.net, we could see what that app is, right? So I'm going to access that techg135.mybluemix.net. I hope that application is running now. Right, there you go. So this is how, let me see whether the screen is refreshed and you could be able to see. Yeah, okay. So this is how the applications are being pushed into Bluemix. And this is what we claim that, right, the deployment happens in less than a couple of minutes. See, at this stage, you might be having a couple of questions or many questions. In terms of, right, I couldn't see what the runtime, right, the option of selecting any runtime. Or you might be having a thought like, okay, I want to run my application using some other runtime which is not available in Bluemix, right? So we have a solution for that. And that's a beauty of, like adopting the open community architecture Cloud Foundry, where something called build pack, right? If you log into the Bluemix console, you will see something like this, the runtimes, right? We have Java Liberty, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby, right? And we have something called a community build pack. So what it means is, assume that you have to run your application using JBoss, where we don't have the JBoss runtime available in Bluemix. All you have to do is search for a build pack, right? Again, a simple Google. Why? Because this is a open community supported, so people might have created build packs. You have the option of creating your own build pack, but the suggested recommended option is reuse the existing build pack and you customize it for your requirement. So build pack is nothing but a script which describes where the particular runtime binaries are available, how to download it, how to install it, how to configure it, basically, right? How to make the runtime up and running. So if you could define these three things in a simple way, right, and then you are ready to move any of your runtime within Bluemix, right? In this case, I just want to show probably, in the interest of time, no, I'll just show the command, right, which is listed over here. All I need to do is cf push, right, the same name of the application, hello techg, and then I'm specifying where my WAR file is, and then I'm specifying -m128 for my RAM requirement. And the next thing what you see is the -b, which shows the URL. That URL points to a particular build pack, right? So all you need to do is either you can click on the community build pack, which I have circled it out in the image on the slide, or you can just search in Google for a particular build pack, and you will get a URL something like this. And if you push your application using this, what Bluemix will do is, rather than attaching our own runtime, it will kind of take the JBoss, right, runtime, and then kind of make your application up and running using the JBoss. So the message here I would like to convey is the flexibility we have in terms of making your application run within Bluemix with the runtime of your choice. So that is the message I like to convey. Right, so just want to move on. We have seen a simple scenario where how we can move the application, and then we have seen a scenario how Bluemix, in what way it is flexible in terms of accommodating the other runtimes. And I want to take you through another scenario. This scenario talks about you have a Java application, servlet application, and that application needs a database, right? So I want to show you how you can consume a service from Bluemix. So the requirement for you is you need to have an app server, and the requirement is you need to have a database. So from the developer perspective, right, what would be the approach? Okay, so it's a very simple three-step approach, right? First step is you log into Bluemix, create an application, and take liberty as a service. And the second thing is take, in this case, the database which I'm want to use is Postgres. Take Postgres as a service. And the third very important thing the developer needs to be aware is how to integrate, right, the service, whatever you're consuming from Bluemix with your application. Okay, so that is, in this particular case, since this being a database, my application needs to know how to access the database, right? So where it is available, username, password, right, the port on which it is running, IP. So this details Bluemix export it as an environment variable called recap_services. So once the credentials, whatever you're looking for to stitch onto your application is exported as an environment variable, then it is matter of you query that environment variable, retrieve those details, and kind of stitch it in your application, and then kind of move your code to Bluemix, and then Bluemix takes care of the rest of the thing, right? So this is going to be the approach. Take your runtime, take your services, and go back to your application, and then kind of do the stitching required in terms of the credentials by querying through the environment variables, and then push your code, right? So this demo, I would like to show using a video, again in the interest of time. Why? Because in 45 minutes I want to quickly take you through the various the breadth of services that Bluemix offers, right? So I have recorded this particular demo. So in this case, the screen what you are seeing now, right, I could see that the runtime liberty is selected. Okay, so that is my requirement, right? I need an app server. I have selected liberty. So what I have to do is I have to define the name for my application. So this is interestingly how you approach for this particular scenario. In the earlier approach, I have the war file, right? I just need an app server, so I've not bothered about, right, binding any other application. So I use the command line cf push. But in this case, I'm using the GUI of Bluemix, right? So I have taken the liberty, and then I am kind of giving a name to my application. You could see here I've given Postgres. It should be a unique name, so I just use something called J9. So the app name is Postgres J9. And you would see that, the runtime is provisioned to me, right? And it is available running, and it is green color. So step one is done, So you could see an app server getting deployed right within minutes. That is something which the developers love to have, or quickly all the run times and other things required. So now in this case, the demo moves to kind of getting a database service. So I've taken Postgres. So once I attach the Postgres database to my application, Postgres J9, right, restaging happens, and you could see, right, Postgres J9 application is made available to me, and I have the Liberty runtime, and I have the Postgres database available. Probably still in red. If you could give a couple of minutes, it will become green, right? I think now it is green. So this shows my runtime and database is available, right? So what is the third step? You need to go back to your code, right? And get the credential from Bluemix, right? So here on the screen, you will see show credential. You can select that and get the credential, or you can select that and scroll down. You will see vcap_services, where we have defined where the database is running. Okay, we have defined host name, port, username, password, right? So now you have the option of hard coding this in your code, where directly you can take the IP, port, username, password, and hard code it, or you can kind of, as I mentioned, query it through the environment variable, right? The best way to do is, rather than hard coding, is you query it from the through the environment variable. So that I like to show, right? I'm going back to my Eclipse. Right, and go back to my code, and here you could see, right, the code, what I need to kind of stitch, right? Here I'm querying it through vcap_services, right? And this would be the third step, and the final step is create a war file and do a CF push, as I showed you in the first demo, right? So in the interest of time, let me kind of stop this demo, right? The idea what I want to give is simple. Basically, how you kind of integrate the service from Bluemix. So what I want to show here is, this is a piece of code, right? Okay, I'm just leaving it here for your understanding. Okay, this is a piece of code you need to stitch. All right. So a quick recap, CF push, it's a simple command. You will see the application up and running in a couple of minutes. Build pack gives you the flexibility to kind of bring the runtimes which is not available within Bluemix. And vcap_services, sorry for the typo. I think, vcap_services is the environment variable which you should query, and like for all the credentials that is required to use the services. Again, the hacker's guide, right? If you search in Google, you will get that has the complete information of how you have to kind of take the services and kind of query the vcap variables and use it in your application. So hacker's guide is something which you have to kind of completely depend on. This the hacker guide will get updated frequently, so you can look up for that particular link to see the latest versions of hacker's guide being uploaded. Okay. So now I have for probably 10 minutes or so, and I want to take you through the other services offered in Bluemix. Okay. So far we have seen a simple scenario of the web-based applications, right? And as I mentioned, for a developer, right, now he starts, right, his novel idea, right, he started implementing it, right, but he will look for the supporting APIs and tools, okay. And Watson is one of the key technology from IBM, right? It's a cognitive computing based, and it is interestingly like the Watson services are exposed in Bluemix as APIs. So all you have to do is query the API in your application and you can start using it, right? So the APIs, right, there are breadth of APIs are available, right? I would like to kind of take you through a couple of things, right? The face detection is one thing. Trade-off analytics. For example, you have plenty of huge amount of data, right? But you are in a dilemma like what to do with the data, what decision to make. You need to buy a mobile phone, right? You have plenty of information and data like the mobile phone, the different types, models, right? The features, right? What to, like what mobile to buy. And kind of you can use the Watson API, right? There's an API by name Dilemma, and that will kind of help you in terms of filtering out based on your requirement, right? What mobile can suit you, right? For your requirement, and you can go ahead and buy. So trade-off analytics, personality insights, right? You have an unstructured data, and you want to kind of understand the psychology traits of that particular statement, right? You can use the personality insights, what kind of person he or she is. You can kind of upload your resume and see how positive you are, how right, what kind of a sentimental analytics involved, right? And then interestingly, question and answer is another very popular API from Watson, and it is widely used by the doctors in US. Basically, like Watson is nothing but it's a system which itself will kind of learn itself and keep upgrading the knowledge around a particular domain, right? And you can, and like what we are doing is we will approach the system to kind of retrieve or get relevant like an answer or a response from Watson. Okay, so that is the intention here. So if you are a doctor, you go with a report, kind of a second opinion or a third opinion, feed into Watson, and Watson will give respond back based on the report what could be the symptom, right, or where the problem is, right, with the confidence level, so that you know how confident like the Watson is. So this is a very interesting like API, right? Speech to text, text to speech, right? APIs are available. So as a developer, you know like you can consume this API, right? So this session is focused on the developer community. I just want to kind of take you through this, how you can consume the API. Okay, if you take the Watson API, three things you have to remember: input to the Watson API, and how you can connect to the Watson, and the output, right? The input, as I mentioned, it could be an like unstructured data, URL, text, HTML content, or semi-structured data, kind of a CSV kind of a file. These are the input formats. And to connect to the Watson, all you need is the API URL and the credentials. So again, right, this is exposed to you like the way I have showed you. You can query it through VCAP variables, or like you can directly get the details from Watson. So as shown in this image, use this and then kind of like you will get the response in terms of a JSON object or an XML. Okay. We have kind of plenty of documents, small test cases, like and blogs around this Watson API available. Like you can kind of go to our developer works community and look for the Watson thing, or I have given you a couple of blog reference, which you can use it to like understand what Watson API offers. So the quick recap is Watson API, right? All from the developer perspective, all you need to kind of need to have from your development perspective is the input, right? And how to access or how to invoke the Watson API, and the output is in JSON. Once you get the output in JSON and XML, you can kind of visualize the data in whatever way you want, right? So I just want to like show one demo, right? See, this is the personality insight, right? How Watson works with personality insight. I was just scanning through the new Logi vehicle, right? So I just took some of the text from their the website, and then I kind of analyzed it, right? And you could see Watson responds back with this category, right? how adventurous, right? From the statements, whatever they have made, right? The Lodge 7-seater vehicle, it says adventurous 97%, emotional aspect 6%, right? You can kind of go on, right? Cheerfulness 5%, right? Excitement seeking 0%. So it all depends on the statements what you feed in, right? And right, this is how Watson will get back to you, right? When you give the input as an unstructured data, you will get the output, right, in a JSON format, which you can kind of parse it and kind of visualize it in this way. Okay. And this is one interesting API, right, where it gives a summary, and then you can visualize it in this way, right? All right. So this is another personality insight, and there is another API I want to quickly show. This is face detection, right? You feed in the image, right, and it will give you like what kind of image it is, right? And you will see the interesting response. Okay, so now you have to like go through the APIs and understand the use cases. And for your benefit, if you have blogged about these APIs in like developer works forum, and so that you'll understand the fitment cases. So in this demo, like when I gave one of my older photos, right, it just gave me a response saying that this guy is a male and the age is between 35 to 44, which is absolutely correct. Though the range is wide, but it's quite funny and interesting to work with the Watson API, right? So the message I would like to convey here is, as a developer, right, when you come on to Bluemix, right, it's a seamless transition of your code, right, and then you have very interesting APIs to work with. All right. So now let me quick, and I have for 5 more minutes. Just want to take you through quickly a few other things. The DevOps scenario, right? You may be having questions like, I have a developer. I'm a developer, right? In what way I can approach Bluemix from the continuous integration perspective? I have a demo, but in the interest of time, I cannot show that now. But let me kind of put it across. If you have your repository, your source code in a JIT repository, you can integrate it with Bluemix. What that means is you continue to work with your JIT, and you can, once you've done your changes, you can push it onto Bluemix. That is option. That is one option. Another option is you can use our own repository, what we offer. And then from there also you can kind of maintain your source code, and you can do your complete project management, tracking, planning, right? If your project code, if you have a complex project with like a number of files, huge number of source codes, a number of the source codes are available, you can kind of like assign it to different developers, right, and you can track, right, now who is doing what, those kind of things. If you are aware of our IBM Rational product, RTC, we have integrated that within the Bluemix, right? So you will have the core niche products of IBM integrated in Bluemix. Database DB2, it is available in Bluemix, right? So in that way, we provide the continuous integration. You have the option of like retaining your repository on-premise, keeping the security and other stuff, and you can kind of integrate with our Bluemix for the deployment requirement. So that flexibility is also available, right? This particular slide I want to this is what I mentioned, how like what it means, the continuous integration. So if you are a mobile app developer, right, what we offer is you develop your app, right? You come to Bluemix for your backend storage requirement, right? For your push notifications, and like we provide the SDKs for iOS, Android, right? Using our SDKs, you can kind of integrate with our Bluemix. And very interestingly, once you develop your code, the mobile app, say APK, you can give it to us. We will scan and we will give you a report saying that, okay, how vulnerable it is, right? What you need to modify, right? What kind of changes you have to do. Okay, so that service also is available, right? And once the app is kind of moved to a client and the client is using the app, and if any problem happens to the app, okay, just like by shaking the phone, he can kind of communicate the problem he's facing, whether it's a crash or a UI problem, now back to like Bluemix, so that you as a developer notified of the problem that a client is facing, and then you will kind of go ahead and see what kind of problem it is. You can rectify it, and you kind of have the option of fixing the problem quickly. So those kind of very interesting features also is available in Bluemix, right? And the breadth of service is really a wide breadth. We have monitoring. You can monitor your applications, the CPU usage, memory usage, right? And mobile development I mentioned. Yeah, this is what I mentioned about the how you can kind of scan your application and get the report out from Bluemix. It will scan and tell that you avoid using a debug version, right? Set a particular attribute to false. You are setting it as a true. So those kind of an interesting report you will get, right? Whether it is a high risk or a low risk, right? So I'll just take 3 more minutes, okay? Right, and I need to introduce another thing also. Not only from the web-based application, not only from people who are want to explore the Watson kind of APIs, not only for the mobile application developers, but the people who are working with an Internet of Things, Internet devices, right? Devices communicate with Internet, right? What we offer, right? You come with your device, right? You kind of register your device with us, and we will give you a recipe. Right, recipe is nothing but kind of an agent which will run on your device, which will help to communicate with our Bluemix. So that is only one thing you need to do. Install our recipe, that's it, right? And all you need to do is you get the MAC address of your device and give it to our Bluemix, right? And we start pulling the data from your device. So if you have connected what kind of sensors to the device, all the data can be tracked, right? And kind of moved to Bluemix. So you have the database, NoSQL databases, right? Cloud and Mongo, time series databases, right? And also the big data clusters are available, right? So you have plenty of options to play around, move the data to Bluemix, and have your application exploring the data, right? And you can kind of visualize the data, and so it is fairly simple, right? That's what I want to communicate right from the beginning. Not only the 2 minutes deployment, right? Even the kind of integration of anything, right? Even the IoT devices, right? Just install our recipe and kind of you are done, right? You can start communicating the data to Bluemix and then kind of play around with the data later, right? And right, so just want to kind of quickly recap mobility, right? We offer SDKs to connect with our Bluemix. You can use our Bluemix for backend services, push notifications, right? Quality, security, and IoT, as I mentioned, connect, collect, and visualize. Hackers Guide, again, is a place where you need to look for the details. DevOps, I mentioned, right? Hybrid cloud options, right? Bluemix is not only like you are kind of you are forced to move to a kind of a complete cloud scenario. It's not like that. We provide flexibility to kind of connect to your on-premise things also. As I mentioned, security, IBM has its own kind of complete security certifications and regulatory compliance. And one last thing, right? I would like to close is Bluemix dedicated, right? So Bluemix, whatever you'll be using as a developer, is a public. But when you scale up your applications, right, when you get into the enterprise level, we have the option of providing you a dedicated Bluemix access, which means is a single tenant, complete isolated access, right? You have the control of that particular Bluemix, right? So there is an option available. And the last, right, but not the least, like you sign up, right? We strongly encourage you to kind of explore Bluemix, 30 days trial, right? Amazing. You will not believe that after 30 days of the free trial, right, you still continue to have 365 GB hours of free services, right, available to you every month. Even if you plan to run your application, right, 10 hours in a day, right, with 1 GB, right, assume that 365 GB is more than sufficient for you to explore and play around, right? So with that, now I'd like to kind of conclude my introductory, right, discussion on Bluemix. I know it is very high level. It's very difficult to pack everything up in 45 minutes, right? but the message is loud and clear, right? Bluemix is flexible and it is there for you to explore. So with that, I conclude. Over to you, Deepika.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks for this insightful presentation. I would request you to quickly take up the questions now. Request you to read out the questions first and their answers.
Yeah, so so the first question from Dhruv Kumar, he has mentioned, is it really helpful for testers? So to answer that, we have services available for the testing community as well, the Blaze meters, and you have the option of automating your the test scenarios. But compared to the complete development scenarios, it is probably, I would say, in the early stages. But the services that are planned to be made available in this year GA will have the breadth of services for your complete test automation, so that you can define your own policies, right? Saying that, okay, if the test passes 100%, go ahead and push and something like that, right? So otherwise we have the bare minimum stuff required for the testing. But from the mobile aspect, we have the complete scenario of your testing your application, which I have taken you through. The second question is it suitable for a startup? Very much, right? Because this is focused probably towards the startup as well. The startup basically will have their ideas and they will look for how to implement it, and that is where they have to land up in Bluemix and see what services are available, what tools are available, and kind of how they can implement their solution. So it is very much available for the startups. And there's a question from Mehul Gupta. My question is where the database server needs to be located, right? So to answer this question, I assume that your intention is to take a database server, right? Your application needs a database server. So you have two options. As I mentioned, you can take the database from Bluemix. Okay, so you have the breadth of database starting from our DB2 till MySQL, the free minimum versions, the bare minimum version without any console to create table and all. But you have the complete full-fledged database as well, where you can create your tables, right? Take backup, replicate, and all the stuff. So you take the database from Bluemix, and then you have your DDL files available, export it into Bluemix, and then that will help you to create the tables and other stuff. Then you go ahead and kind of start consuming the database as a service. So your application and database will be available within Bluemix. The other option is, you can have your database configured on your local premise, right? So using our cloud integrator, as I mentioned, the hybrid, right? So we provide an option to connect to your on-premise database. It can be behind the firewall also. Doesn't matter. We will give you an agent. You have to install that agent, and the agent will take care of tunneling, your database to the application running on Bluemix. So you have the option of having the database on-premise and also taking it from Bluemix. So hope that answers your question. And the other question I have is from Mehul Gupta. Let me read out the question. Like in cloud computing, we can have database on some remote location. In this, do we have database stored at remote location, or it should be local to the server? Okay, I think that I have answered this to this as well. You have the option of storing it. You have the option of having a remote location database, or in the local server, or it can be within the Bluemix, right? So that flexibility we have. And interestingly, we have option of connecting to the API, connecting to the database and kind of executing the queries through APIs as well. So API-based access to database also is available, right? And the other question from Mehul Gupta is, what is Watson, right, that we are getting as an output from Watson API? What is that? Okay, we are getting as an output from Watson API. This I have shown you in the demo as well. Probably if you have seen the personality insight demo, the input what I have given is unstructured data, right? It is a data taken from the Renault web page. They talk about their new, the release logi, right? So it is an unstructured data. The output you have seen, right? We have visualized the data, but the output you will get it as in JSON format. So once you get it as a JSON object, then you can kind of parse it and then kind of display or visualize it like in whatever way you want, right? So Watson will respond back the various categories, right? If you have remember, like the emotional things, it depends on the API, right? In the personality insight API, the output goes probably in terms of the emotional things, the other various other the personality of that particular document, right? All available in a JSON object. Okay, so hope that answers your question. So right, input is an unstructured data, output is based on the API, it will be a JSON output. Okay, and another question from Pravat Jena is about auto scaling, right? How quick it is. Auto scaling, it's a good question. I would say I couldn't cover this. Auto scaling feature is built within the Bluemix environment, right? So once you deploy your application, you have the option of kind of defining policies. For example, you can say that once the CPU utilization goes above 80%, right, I want to have another instance of my application running. Right, so in that way, right, you can kind of define policies, right, either to scale up or scale down in terms of like increasing the number of instances, right? So auto scaling is very much available, right, within the Bluemix, and also the load balancing is well taken care within Bluemix, right? All those things, you really no need to worry about, right? Since we covered auto scaling, I want to touch upon another interesting scenarios. For example, you have deployed an instance, it is up and running, and you kind of want to have another similar instance being pushed into Bluemix, right? But it has to be a seamless one, right? Instance 1 should be up and running, and the same time the same instance will be running as instance 2, right? But the user will be directed to instance 2 at one stage, and you need to bring down the instance 1 at the later stage. So this also can be done through Bluemix. Right, like all you have to do is do a map and unmap, and then you can seamlessly move your instances. So that is one thing. Another question you may have is you will see the application is identified as mybluemix.net. You can have your own domain also kind of mapped so that you can access it with your own domain. So it is not that you need to depend upon our the bluemix.net domain, right? So another question is, can we get the recordings of the session and presentation? Right, so that is from Vinay Nayangali, right? I assume that you will get it. Probably the moderator can update you more on that, right? So these are some of the questions I could see over here. Apart from that, probably if you have any questions, we have a couple of minutes. Let me know. And I strongly encourage you to kind of register onto Bluemix now. It's simple, right? Go ahead and explore. And there is a forum available, Bluemix forums. You can search in Google Developer Works Bluemix forum. You can raise any sort of questions. It is monitored worldwide, right? And people will jump on to respond to that. You have the option of raising the Bluemix related questions on Stack Overflow as well. Stack Overflow also is monitored worldwide, and people are available worldwide to kind of respond to you for any sort of questions, right? So you have an excellent support, and you have documentation everywhere for each of the services you take, and you have demos for each of the services you plan to consume on Bluemix, right? So your journey within Bluemix is going to be smooth, right? All that is required from you is register onto Bluemix and start exploring. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks for this insightful presentation. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this webinar today. It was indeed a great session. I'd also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com very soon. Thank you everyone. Thanks for your time today.